Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. I'm a summer camp director, writer, and speaker, and I've had the privilege of working with thousands of children, teenagers, young adult counselors, and parents over the past 3 decades. My husband, Steve, and I are raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 15 to 25. So my interest in raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults is personal as well as professional. In this episode of the podcast, I'm talking with Karen Lock Kolp. She's the founder of the We Turned Out Okay website and podcast. She's an expert in child development and has a master's degree in early childhood education. She has many years of experience working with children and even does in-home parenting coaching. In this episode, we're talking about her new book, 10 Secrets Happy Parents Know, How to Stop the Chaos, Bring Out Your Child's Good Behavior, and Truly Enjoy Family Time. For more information about Karen, her book, and her website and podcast, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com and search for episode 69. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Karen from We Turned Out Okay. Well, I am thrilled to have Karen Lock Kolp back on the podcast today. She was on, I'm not sure which episode, but I'll look in the show. We'll put it in the show notes so that we know you can listen back to our last episode together. But today we're talking about something really exciting. Karen has a new book out. It's called 10 Secrets Happy Parents Know. And I'm thrilled I had a chance to read it. It's a pretty quick read with so many nuggets of great information for parents. So welcome, Karen. Thanks for coming back on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be back on.
So Karen, for those who missed your last episode that we had together, can you just tell a little bit about your background and especially talk about the parent coaching you do, which is really interesting to me?
Sure. I am a child development expert first and foremost, and in that capacity, I help parents figure out why their kids do these crazy things that their kids do. And I always say I help parents get good behavior instead, change their child's bad behavior to good behavior, feel happy inside themselves in terms of inside the parents, and truly enjoy time with their kids, because you do get that sense that, I don't know how it was for you, Audrey, as you were becoming a parent. You're a mom, right?
Oh yes, I have 5 kids.
Yes. Isn't that funny? Like we've talked. I'm sure we've talked about it, but I can't. Anyway, I don't know if you felt this particular dread, but the dread of spending time alone with your child, of being ultimately responsible, is something that I really struggled with as a parent when I was a younger person and when my kids were younger. And what I do is help parents not feel that way, I guess.
Yeah, just like enjoy their time more with their kids.
Exactly. And I do that everything I do is located at WeTurnedOutOK.com. And actually, this is an aside, but I am setting up a post for the 1st of January, because my episodes always come out on a Tuesday. And on the 1st of January, I have an episode out that is about, I wanted to share a success story, just, as people are kind of climbing out from under like the holiday insanity. And I ended up using the phrase that I wanted people to hear this person's success story because it helped them, turn out okay. And then I basically said, this is something I never, ever, ever used. I made a choice that I would never use that pun. And this is the very first time I've ever using it.
Well, I mean, ultimately it's kind of funny, but what we want for our kids is for them to turn out okay, to become good people. So your title of your podcast and your website is quite appropriate and really fun. And actually, we should just mention that you have a podcast. And on the podcast, you do a combination. You sometimes share tips on your own, and then you also interview guests, because I know I was on one time as well.
You were, and once in future guest, my friend, because you're coming back.
So let's talk about the book, and it's divided into 2 parts, and I have it in front of me because I read through it. The first part is finding the good behavior within your child. And the second part is about truly enjoying family time. So what do you find yourself from this book talking about most when you're talking to people about it? What are the kind of things that are really resonating most, do you think, with people?
So two things. First of all, in the very beginning of the book, I share the story about the day that my husband went off to work and left me alone with our 5-week-old. And it was the first time I'd been alone with him, because between my husband's taking time off, my in-laws, my mother-in-law was here, my parents came to visit. And now there was this day where I was like, oh my God, it's just me and this person. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to fill up this time? And so I share people, that story is really resonating with people who are like, wow, if you could feel this way, it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I talk in the book about these things that I do on a weekly basis, actually, in the We Turned Out Okay Facebook group, which is I teach a phrase. Sometimes it's a phrase, sometimes even it's just a single word, and I call them magic words for parents. And I share some of them in the book. And they're like, a lot of times what we have trouble with is in the moment. Like, what do you say that's going to be the right thing to say? How do you not lose it or say something that you'll regret, right? And the magic words for parents is all about that. So
yeah, I really enjoy those. Yeah, I really enjoy those. Yeah, I don't catch all of them, but when I can, I do. And it is kind of true, because it's almost like for parents, just you have to sort of repeat and get in the habit of certain phrases or words that are going to help you, kind of like you said, not just get all upset and lose it on your kids. It's funny because lately I've been focusing on a couple different questions to ask kids. So instead of like jumping in and solving their problems, just saying, so what are you planning on doing? Or what do you think you're going to do? So instead of just, because it's like our automatic response, since we're more experienced and kind of know what we think our kids should do, because we are grown up and we have practiced and learned ourselves. And so that's one that I often, I'm not sure what the exact words I put, but it's just asking a question to the kids instead of just jumping in with, well, first you need to go to the teacher and then you need to do this and then you need to do that. Instead, just saying, that sounds hard. What are you thinking about doing? And getting them to think. And I love your phrase, magic words, because they really are. If you can use them often enough to get into the habit, you're actually like helping raise a kid who turns out okay.
And they work. I mean, they really work. This is what I keep hearing from people is like, they have to be very specific, but they do have a sort of formula about them. And Audrey, you just used it. Like, the first thing you said was, not only was it not, you need to do this, but it was, the first thing you said was, wow, that sounds really hard for you. Like, you're validating your child's, concerns. And a lot of times when that's happened with me, when somebody said simply like, I'm sorry, that sounds so hard, it's so much better than my husband and I were actually he was trying to figure out a way to help me through something just the other night. And all he could think of to say was, I'm sorry. And then there was a pause, and he said, I wish I had something else to say. I don't have any advice. I said, you've just done the best thing you could possibly do, which is just to validate my feelings.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so true. I think that's what we all need. Always it's like just to know that we're seen, someone hears us, we're like, we mean something to them. That's beautiful. Yep. Well, what I really want to ask you about, because I love the story in the book, and I love that you do coaching and actually get to sometimes go into people's homes and help them. It kind of reminds me of that TV show, Nanny 911 from years ago. So
like that a little bit. Yep.
Yeah. So tell me about kind of when you do your coaching, like, what do you usually do? How old are the kids generally? And what are some of the common things that you end up helping people with?
Well, this has been such a blast. This is something I started in 2018. So if you happen to live in the I only just started this year.
I didn't know that. Okay.
If you happen to live in the, within, I would say I go, an hour's drive sort of. I help people figure out, mostly it's had to do with like weeknights. A lot of times it's been working parents whose home lives are just nutty, and one of the things that they struggle with most is, how do I handle weeknight chaos. Actually, I think that was the subject. The last time I came on your show, we were talking about weeknight chaos. And the people that I usually work with, because my background is in early childhood education. I'm a child development expert, which means I'm actually a human development expert, which means I focus on, I know a lot about the whole life cycle from pre-birth through through the end, kind of a thing. And but my favorite area and the one that I think I know most about is say preschool age kids, so 3, 4, 5. And it's cool too, because this is the age at which kids you show up at their home and they don't care why you're there. They're not suspicious. They're just like, okay, here's this person. And I found that I can really fade into the background and hear and see, just observe a lot that is super helpful for parents. And what they'll do is we'll talk afterwards, and they're just blown away by like the things their kids are trying to communicate, because a lot of times that just gets lost in the dinner time, bath time, bedtime kind of craziness. So that's what it's about.
Okay, well, you didn't say where you are, because if people want to be 1 hour from you, where are you?
I am in Eastern Massachusetts, so I'm just outside of Boston.
Okay, so kind of Boston area.
Yeah.
If you need some coaching,
some one-to-one.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like you're an anthropologist going into looking at a family. And a lot of times just getting that outside perspective is so important. I find with so many things that, whether it's writing or whatever else, when you're too close to it, you can't really see the things. So getting someone else who can come in and kind of observe the interactions and maybe see those things, how valuable that is. Well, that's exciting. Is that something that you're going to continue doing? Is you want to grow that part of your...
Oh, I hope so. Absolutely. I learned so much from it. I mean, I have learned. I mean, I've done it multiple times now, and every time I go into a home, I guess I should say the first time I shared the story in the book. One of the first times that I went into a home, I didn't even know what the problem was. Like it took me some time to process it. Like I went home, I basically said to them, I want you to spend 10 screen-free minutes a day as a family. That was my recommendation. And I didn't even know why I was recommending it. And then I sort of got home and I realized it's because there's so much noise and mess that no one is communicating with anyone else. And I knew that what they need instinctively, I knew that what they needed was to be able to look at their kids and go, oh, wow, they just said this. That's so interesting. Like, and just to have it not have any pressure, just a relaxed time to just be together. And that was super helpful. Everything else came from that, which is why I talk about how we have communication cuts chaos.
Yes. Yep. That's your secret number one. Yeah. So you have 10 secrets in the book. And like you said, that's the first one. Communication cuts through chaos. As you were talking, I'm just thinking, I feel like this lack of attention for other people is not just for parents. I mean, I think we're all feeling that. It's a huge gift when someone just listens to us, looks at us, isn't distracted while they're talking to us. And so, for our kids who've never experienced a world other than one just saturated with everybody all busy and on their screens, I've talked about that with in one of my blog posts. I think is something about like giving kids your full attention.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a couple minutes a day, it's hugely valuable. And I think a lot of what you say in the book is so true, that many times kids are just trying to get our attention, to share something with us. And maybe they're not the best at saying what it is they want attention for, but a lot of times their behaviors are simply because we're distracted. They're trying to talk to us and tell us something.
Yeah. One of the magic words actually that didn't make it into the book was given to me by another guest on the show. Her name is Shannon O'Brien. And I don't remember what her book is called, but it's about sort of figuring out work and life. Like how do you create a life as a mom, as a worker, as an employee kind of a thing, and have it be enjoyable. And one of the things I interviewed her when I was first starting the Magic Words, and she actually we hit stop and she said, can I share some magic words that you could share? And I hit record again so she could bring them onto the show. And she said, when you want your child to know that you love them, what you can say to them is, what can I do for you right now? Like, I've got a couple of minutes. What can I do for you right now? And she says that with her kids, it's been as simple as, it's a very unexpected oftentimes. Sometimes they just want a hug. Sometimes they want you to sit and watch them play their video game for 10 minutes. Like, it can be so not what we thought, but it's wonderful. And I have used those magic words in my own family. And it's just, again, like you're saying, it's just so wanting to be validated, wanting to have somebody recognize them. And so when your child says to you, will you watch me play this video game? They're showing you their heart, you know?
Right. Because they're wanting to share what's important to them.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are some magic words. What can I do for you right now?
I feel like that works with spouses and coworkers and everywhere else too. I bet most of your magic words would be helpful with almost any relationship, I'm guessing.
I would think so. I mean, some of them are about like what to say when your child is jumping on the couch for your attention.
Okay. Well, it even translates what adults do for attention. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not. I'm certainly not trying to contradict you. I'm just remembering. Like, that was one of my favorite ones because it's just so silly, but it happens all the time.
Right.
So frustrating.
Well, I love that. And so a lot of your, it's actually what secret number 3 is, words matter. So a lot of what you're teaching in the book and on your podcast and on your Facebook lives that you do on the magic words is really just helping parents find their words to parent, to feel better and be more effective with their communication with their kids, which is such a simple thing. And so I love that the way you break down the book is so helpful for parents in that way.
Thank you.
So is there anything else from the book that you want to share? Like, I mean, I really love the Secret 9, celebrate every day. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what parents can do?
Yeah. So that one, it's funny, the way that the book evolved. So I've been working on it since summer of 2017. And, initially, I was going to have it divided exactly in halves, right? So you would have half the things be about how to get control and half the things be about how to enjoy family time. And what I discovered is that, like, if you can, like, the bulk of it had to be before in the first half, because once you get that established, everything else can really fall into place. And one of the very first of the second part of the book was about celebrating every day. And this came about because in my parenting community, which isn't that, the parenting community is called the Ninja Parenting Community, which is based on actually the title of my first book, which was called Positive Discipline Ninja Tactics. And people love that idea. But so I've got the podcast and the website are called We Turned Out Okay. But the Ninja Parenting Community is where a lot of this stuff kind of gets talked about and happens. That's the exclusive private coaching community. And it comes up with like year-end celebrations or birthdays where parents are writing in and they're like, oh my God, my kid I'm so tired. It's only, October 1st and I already feel like I don't want Santa to come, because it's so hard on kids to celebrate, these long-term celebrations can be really, really hard on them. And instead, what I recommend is that we just literally celebrate every day. Kids can find something joyful in every single day. And I think that's something we can learn from them. So I hope that comes across in the book. I think that it's not just us teaching our kids valuable things. It's us learning from our kids.
Yes. I can't remember where it was. It was many years ago when I was a new parent. I went to some parenting talk, and they talked about what kids remember from their childhood. And, we always think it's like the big things, like, oh, the big birthday party that you had or this, that, and the other. But really what they remember is more the day-to-day things that you did. And, like if you can build in just fun family times together that happen weekly or every day, that's really meaningful. And that's what kids will remember. Like, oh, remember how we always used to, eat popcorn on Thursdays, or I don't know, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be big, fancy things to be memorable. So I really love that. Well, why don't you tell a little bit about where people can find all your things and where they can get your book?
I definitely will, but I wondered, could I share one more aspect of the book that I
Absolutely.
think
Yes,
so?
please. Please.
So another thing that that I think parents can struggle with is the idea of when is it? Well, we heard this a lot as preschool teachers, and it still comes up every day for parents. Is like, when is my child going to learn how to read? How can I teach them how to do things like that are academic or whatever? And I in the book I share a story about a mom who was like, we called her the dragon lady. I mean, she was just a very frightening character, as you know, and as a preschool teacher to have to deal with this mom was like frightening, because she was very much like, what are you doing to teach my son how to read? And, you know, he needs to learn how to write his name and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, but he's just a typical 4-year-old. Like, there's so much else in the world for him to see. And so I actually call that secret, I can't, isn't that funny? I can't. Oh, it's called You're Only Pre-Literate Once. And I guess what I'd love to kind of leave with listeners is the idea that, like, wherever your child is in their development, whether it's true pre-literacy, like if they're actually pre-verbal, or if they're teenagers and they just don't have the life lessons yet that you want them to have, I think this idea really carries through, because it's more about them being able to look around and be curious about things and kind of, again, celebrate the everyday, but just understand that where they are is a really good place to be. And they can always ask for help. You know, there's always ways for us to be helpful, but it has to come from them asking us instead of the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I actually, when you were talking, I was just thinking, it's not just with reading, it's kind of with everything, especially when you're just parenting your own kids. And so you have this kind of very, like, you're really focused on, oh, wait, they're this age, I want them to learn this. And I think it's really helpful to, first of all, have friends and a community who have kids different ages and older than your kids, because I always found it really helpful. Like, my sister has kids a couple years older, and I have, a couple friends. It was good to be able to just say, hey, what is going on with this? What do you think about this? And it's like, they have a better perspective when their kids are older. They know, like, I mean, I remember, people are really focused on like potty training. And in the end, it doesn't matter when your kid gets potty trained, and no one cares. They all eventually learn how to use the toilet unless they're like disabled. So it's like, but you're very fixated on it when your kids are that age. And I feel like it's kind of like that with everything. All the way through, even into, the teenage years. There's some kids who are just kind of, they've learned to be more responsible. They're kind of more articulate. And you can be, as a parent, thinking, well, when's my kid going to get this? But when you see that everyone's on their own little trajectory, and we all kind of, people will get there, and just being a little more of a wide view. I tend to, you kind of work with younger kids, and I tend to, end up talking more to people with a little bit older kids, even kids in high school and leaving for college, just because of all the people I know through camp. And it's interesting now that I have adult children kind of out in the world, and I have a few teenagers still at home. It's like, I am like, with my 2 kids still in high school, my whole perspective is so much more relaxed about everything, from the college application process to everything else. Cause it's like, I don't know exactly what their path's going to be, but if they are, if they have friends and they are, pretty responsible, and they're getting more organized as the years go on, I'm like, okay, we're getting there, and maybe not as fast or as whatever, but it's this whole long journey. And I think, especially when kids are little, people get so fixated on things like learning to read or potty training, or all these things that, as you know, and as I know, when your kids are older, I can't even remember how old my kids were exactly when they learn to read, or, I mean.
And it seems so massive and scary in the moment. And then you're like, God, that was a really long time. I haven't had to worry about that for so long now.
I know.
My oldest is 18, and he's in his senior year of high school. And he's been a homeschooler for most of his life. And as such, his focus was he was always very interested in literacy or literature, and big ideas and talking about things. And he always loved experiential learning. He always loved science experiments. But he was pretty frightened of math, if the truth be told. And when this year, it occurred to him that, like, there are barriers. If you don't know the math, that you need to know. There are barriers that are going to get in your way. And this was the year that he determined that wasn't going to be his fate. He wasn't going to let this, knock him down. And so by his own admission, in about 2 months, he learned everything from 5th grade math on up to senior level math, like on up to pre-calculus. And he came out of it going, you know what? I actually really like math. Like he's the first, he's going to try a community college class as a secondary level student this coming spring semester. And he's choosing a math class instead of an English one because he thinks he's going to enjoy it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty great. So I think like letting them, no matter what age, kind of letting them be, quote, pre-literate, like whatever that means to them, and letting them kind of letting those questions bubble up for them, and then saying, when they say to you, but what do I do? How do I start? And then you can say, well, let's look for some resources. I'm sure there's a way. His way was, it's Khan Academy.
My gosh, yeah. Yeah, I love Khan Academy. I often referred back to it when my kids were asking me math problems, because I loved math as a kid, but boy, do I not know pre-calc anymore, or all those things. So Khan Academy is terrific. Yeah, that's so fun. Okay, so Karen, now how about sharing with people? First of all, where can people find your book? Where is it available?
It is available in Amazon in both paperback and ebook formats. I wanted to make it a paperback so that I like to take a nonfiction book and dog-ear the pages and mark it up and highlight it and write questions and stuff like that. I wanted to give people that option. And if you want to learn more about the book itself, you can go to WeTurnedOutOK.com/books. And in fact, Audrey has written a beautiful, basically praise. Some lovely things that you said, Audrey, about the book. And what I did was I took praise like that and I posted it on the website so that you can on WeTurnedOutOK.com/books so that people can read about that. And it just meant so much to me that the book resonated with you so much and that you got so much out of it. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And actually, one of the things that I really liked is I feel like so many parenting books are these kind of big tomes that nobody's going to actually read. And yours is really a length that even people who aren't big readers, I feel like they can pick it up and just get some really valuable information without having to invest very much time.
Yeah.
So when you asked me to write it or write a little review, I was like, oh my gosh, when am I going to find time to do this? I literally sat down with my coffee and I think I read the book in 45 minutes.
Awesome.
Because I'm a pretty fast reader, but I was like, oh my gosh, how great to have a resource that really parents, especially parents, I would say, of younger kids, although any age it works, but this is really especially helpful if you're just starting out family life and trying to figure out some of the ways that you're going to function as a family. This is really helpful. So I enjoyed it a lot.
And the way it's formatted is so clear. I love a book where whatever chapter you're in, instead of giving you the name of the author on one page and then the name of a book on the facing page, there's the chapter name, on, as you're going through the book, you can tell what chapter you're in. It's like, oh, this is such a relief. So I'm glad to hear that really worked for you. And I hope it helps people just, find what they're looking for a little bit more quickly. I also wanted to say I usually forget to say this, so thank you for reminding me, but I'm both in Twitter and Instagram. I'm at WeTurnedOutOK. So, and it's OKAY. That's how I spell it. But, so I have been able to kind of get into both of those places, for me anyway, reasonably frequently. And it's just such fun to talk with people there. So if you are listening and you have something to share, or you want to talk about the book or whatever, come on over and find me in Twitter and Instagram at WeTurnedOutOK.
Yeah, I think you're really great at connecting with your community. I often see your things that you're doing. Excuse me. This has been so much fun. So we're actually recording in December, but this is going to come out in January. And so what a great thing, starting a fresh new year for people to also maybe learn a few new magic words, or just something that can just make home life just more fun and peaceful and more connected with your family. So I'm so glad that we met each other and connected, and I will put tons of links in the show notes to all these things we've talked about, and so that people can find you and hopefully learn some things from you.
The magic words happen if you go to facebook.com/WeTurnedOutOK. You can find the button to join the group. And every Monday morning at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, I'm starting them up again on January the 7th. So,
oh my gosh, that's perfect. I think this is going to come out right before that. So maybe people can join you for your first We Turned Out Okay, or magic words. Okay, that's terrific. Well, this has been so much fun, Karen. Thank you so much for coming back on again. It's been great talking to you again. And I hope your book gets read widely and share your wisdom with parents.
Thank you. And I cannot wait to have you back on to We Turned Out Okay to talk about your book, which has a fabulous name. The name Happy Campers, I just love it.
Well, I'm excited. I know. I'm trying to hold myself back from talking about it too much because it's so far away right now when it's coming out. But I know once it's 2019, the date will come up faster, right?
Yeah, it will. Thank you so much for having me on today.
It's been a blast. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. I really enjoyed chatting with Karen again, and I hope you learned some new skills and ideas to take home to your family. For notes about this and any other episode, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com. You'll find links to Karen's website and all the topics that we discussed in this episode. While you're on my website, I'd love to invite you to join me as one of my email subscribers. Each week, I send out an email with links to my most recent podcast episodes, blog posts, as well as books I'm reading and other information that I'm finding helpful and interesting. So please join me if you're interested in receiving my weekly email. I'm having so much fun connecting with camp directors from all across the United States in my camp director interview series called Happy Campers Interviews. We're talking about the social and emotional growth as well as the character traits and life skills that kids gain at summer camp. To see the full schedule of interviews with links to the camp websites, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com and click on the Happy Campers Interviews link. If you're a regular listener and you enjoy the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, I would really appreciate it if you'd take just a few minutes to give me a rating and a review on iTunes. I love this review that Squirby76 left on iTunes. Audrey is articulate, speaks from reality, and brings along insightful guests. I enjoy listening to the tips she has shared as a parent and a successful business owner. Keep going. Our family loves it. Thank you so much, Squirby76, and everyone else who's put in a review. I really appreciate each and every one. I recently read a book that I highly recommend. It's by Cal Newport, and it's called Deep Work: Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. Reading his book actually helped me decide on my one word for 2019, which, if you've read my recent blog post, my word is focus. So I'm going to end this episode with a quote from Deep Work. Who you are, what you think, feel, and do, what you love, is the sum of what you focus on.
This podcast is a proud member of Parents on Demand, a network of high-quality shows for families just like yours. Download our free network app on Apple and Android and listen to your favorite episodes on the go.